The envelope was cream-colored, thick like wedding stationery, with my father's handwriting carved into it like knife marks. I recognized it instantly. Even after 20 years, some things never leave your bloodstream. My daughter held it carefully between her fingers while the entire auditorium stared at her under the golden wash of stage lights. Her graduation gown shimmered dark blue beneath the banners hanging from the rafters, and for one terrifying second, I forgot how to breathe. "Mom," she whispered into the microphone. The sound echoed through the packed gymnasium. And I knew exactly where that letter came from. My knees nearly gave out. The applause from her valedictorian speech had just faded moments earlier. Proud parents were still wiping tears from their faces. Cameras flashed. Flowers rustled. Somewhere near the front row, a baby cried softly. But all I could hear was the roaring in my ears. Because my parents were there. For the first time in 20 years. Sitting 3 rows behind me. Watching. I hadn't invited them. I hadn't spoken to them since the day they slammed the front door in my face and told me I was no longer their daughter. All because I adopted a child. Not just any child. A baby nobody wanted. A baby born addicted. A baby abandoned in a hospital crib for 11 days while strangers walked past her room pretending not to hear her crying. That baby was Ava. My Ava. And now she stood at the podium in front of hundreds of people holding the letter that destroyed my life. The same letter I burned in my nightmares for 2 decades. My fingers dug into the velvet armrests of the auditorium seat. "Ava," I mouthed silently. She looked at me with trembling eyes. Not scared. Heartbroken. Then she unfolded the paper. The sound alone nearly split me open. My mother shifted uncomfortably several rows behind me. I didn't need to turn around to know her face had gone pale. My father probably looked angry. He always looked angry when he was afraid. Ava inhaled shakily into the microphone. "I found this letter 3 weeks ago," she said softly. The gym fell silent. You could hear fabric moving. Breathing. Someone coughing near the back. Her voice cracked. It was hidden in my mother's attic inside a box labeled Christmas decorations. Oh God. I shut my eyes. I never meant for her to see it. Never. Because some wounds don't heal. They rot quietly beneath your ribs. And that letter was poison. I asked my mom about it, Ava continued. She told me some people are trapped by fear so deep they mistake cruelty for love. A few people shifted uncomfortably. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. She asked me not to read it. Ava's hands trembled. But I did. My father suddenly stood up behind me. "Enough of this," he barked. Heads turned instantly. The principal looked confused. But Ava stared directly at him. And smiled. Not warmly. Not kindly. The kind of smile a person wears when they finally stop bleeding. "No," she said into the microphone. "I think it's exactly enough." The room froze. My father slowly sat back down. For the first time in my entire life, I saw fear in him. Ava lifted the letter higher. This was written to my mother the day she adopted me. My stomach churned. Then she began reading. "Bella," she read aloud, voice sharp as shattered glass, "if you walk into this family carrying that filthy drug baby, don't ever come back." Gasps rippled across the auditorium. My mother covered her mouth. Ava kept going. "You are throwing your future away for damaged garbage. That child will ruin your life, infect this family, and embarrass us until the day we die." Someone whispered, "Oh my God." My vision blurred. I remembered every second of that day. Rain hammering the porch roof. My suitcase by the stairs. My father's face red with rage. My mother crying silently but never defending me. And tiny 6-week-old Ava asleep against my chest in a yellow blanket. She was so small. So fragile. Her little fingers wrapped around mine like she already knew I was all she had. "You still have time," my father told me that night. I remember every word. "Take her back. Take her back." Like she was defective merchandise. I looked down at that trembling baby in my arms, and something inside me changed forever. No. It was the first time I had ever disobeyed him. He slapped me so hard my ear rang. My mother screamed. But I didn't cry. Because Ava woke up. And when her tiny newborn cry filled the house, my father looked at her with disgust. Actual disgust. That was the moment I realized something horrifying. The wrong orphan had been abandoned. Not her. Me. Ava's voice echoed through the gymnasium. When that little mistake grows up and destroys your life, don't come crawling back to us. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Then Ava folded the letter carefully. I want everyone here to understand something, she said. Tears glistened in her eyes now. My mother worked 3 jobs. My throat tightened. She slept in her car once so I could stay in a school district with better teachers. People around me started turning. Looking at me. Really looking at me. Ava continued. She sold her wedding ring to pay for my asthma medication when I was 6. The audience grew quieter with every word. She sat beside me every night when I had panic attacks. She held my hair when chemotherapy made me sick at 14. A collective murmur swept through the crowd. Most people didn't know. We never told many people about the cancer. Ava smiled weakly through tears. She taught me that love is not biology. Love is who stays. I broke. Completely. Tears spilled down my face so fast I couldn't stop them. And the people who wrote this letter? Ava looked directly at my parents. They abandoned the best person I've ever known. My mother started crying. But Ava wasn't finished. Not even close. Then her expression changed. Cold. Controlled. Dangerously calm. There's one more thing. My father shifted again. Nervous. Good. Ava reached beneath the podium and pulled out another envelope. This one white. Official looking. My pulse stumbled. I recently got accepted into Stanford Law, she said. The auditorium erupted into applause. But she raised her hand. And last week, I accepted a position with a legal foundation specializing in elder abuse and financial fraud investigations. My father's face drained of color. I frowned slightly. What? Ava's eyes locked onto him. Which became very interesting after my grandfather contacted me 3 months ago. The air vanished from the room. My father went rigid. No. No. My grandfather had cut contact with everyone years ago after a massive fight over money. Ava unfolded the second document. Voice steady. He informed me that my grandparents created an education trust for future grandchildren decades ago. I turned slowly toward my parents. My mother looked horrified. My father looked trapped. The trust disappeared, Ava said quietly. A murmur spread through the audience. And after reviewing financial records with attorneys, she paused. The silence became unbearable. We discovered my grandfather's signature had been forged. The entire room exploded in whispers. My father stood up again. This is a lie. But his voice cracked. Ava didn't flinch. The investigation began 2 months ago. My father lunged toward the aisle. 2 men in suits stepped from the back wall immediately. Federal agents. The entire auditorium gasped as badges flashed beneath the lights. Oh my God. Oh my God, my mother whispered beside him. One of the agents approached calmly. Richard Hale. My father backed away. People moved aside in terror. You are being charged with fraud, embezzlement, and financial exploitation. The room detonated into chaos. Parents stood up. Phones came out. Someone screamed. And through all of it, my father turned toward me. Not angry now. Desperate. Bella. I hadn't heard him say my name softly since I was a child. His eyes begged me. For help. For mercy. For something. But all I could see was a tiny baby wrapped in yellow blankets while rain hammered against a front porch. Take her back. My daughter stepped down from the podium slowly. The entire auditorium watched as she crossed the stage toward me. Toward the woman they said ruined my life. Then Ava wrapped her arms around me tightly and whispered into my ear. You saved mine. The audience rose to their feet. Thunderous applause crashed through the gym like a wave. But I barely heard it. Because over Ava's shoulder, I watched federal agents place handcuffs on the man who once told me love was conditional. And for the first time in 20 years, I smiled. 3 weeks later, I stood alone in my kitchen at 2:13 in the morning staring at an old voicemail I still couldn't bring myself to delete. My father's name glowed on the screen. Unread. Unanswered. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows, the same kind of rain that fell the night I lost my family. Or thought I did. The house smelled like cinnamon tea and old books. Ava had fallen asleep on the couch after studying for finals, one leg hanging off the blanket, her law textbooks scattered everywhere like little monuments to the life we survived for. I walked over quietly and tucked the blanket around her shoulders. Even at 22, she still curled her hand under her cheek the same way she did as a little girl. The same little girl doctors warned me about. She may have developmental issues. She may struggle emotionally. These children often become unstable. People said awful things so casually back then. Like children could hear destiny being assigned to them. But they never saw her learning to read at 4 while sitting in my lap. Never saw her sneaking notes into my lunch bag when I worked double shifts. Never saw her ringing the cancer bell at 14 with tears streaming down her face while nurses applauded. They only saw where she came from. I saw who she was. And somehow, that made all the difference. The voicemail notification stared at me again. 7 seconds long. I should have deleted it. Instead, I pressed play. Static crackled first. Then my father's voice came through weakly. Not powerful. Not furious. Just old. Bella. My chest tightened instantly. I don't know if you'll listen to this. A long silence followed. I could hear him breathing. Heavy. Shaky. They moved your mother to a different room today. I froze. What? His voice cracked slightly. She keeps asking for you. The kitchen suddenly felt colder. I hadn't seen my mother since the arrest. After the fraud scandal exploded, everything collapsed fast. My father's assets were frozen. News stations picked up the story. Former business partners turned on him overnight. The country club revoked their membership within 48 hours. And my mother. My mother had suffered a stroke 2 days after the investigation became public. The doctors called it stress-induced. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction. Maybe I should have. But pain is strange. Even after people destroy you, pieces of your heart still remember loving them. I know I don't deserve anything from you, my father whispered through the voicemail. Another silence. Then quietly. But your mother kept every picture you ever sent. My breath caught. What? She hid them from me. The room blurred slightly. She kept your graduation photos. Ava's school portraits, every birthday card. His voice sounded smaller now. Like a man shrinking inside his own regret. I found them after she got sick. I leaned against the kitchen counter because suddenly my legs didn't feel steady. She used to look at them after I went to sleep. Tears stung my eyes before I could stop them. No, don't do this. Don't humanize them now. Don't make this complicated. She said she wanted to call you 1,000 times. My father inhaled shakily. But she was afraid you'd hate her. A bitter laugh escaped my throat before I could stop it. Afraid? Afraid? I spent 20 years wondering why my own mother never came after me. 20 Christmases. 20 birthdays. 20 years of silence, so loud it nearly swallowed me whole. And now I was supposed to feel sorry for fear? My hands trembled violently. Then the voicemail ended. Just like that. No goodbye. No apology. Only silence. I stared at the dark screen for a very long time. Then a sleepy voice behind me said softly, "You're crying." I turned. Ava stood near the hallway rubbing her eyes. I quickly wiped my face. "I'm okay." She gave me that look. The one children give when they realize their parents are lying badly. Then she walked over quietly and took the phone from my hand. She listened to the voicemail without saying anything. When it ended, she set the phone down gently. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I looked toward the rain-covered windows. I don't know. And that was the truth. Because revenge feels powerful in fantasies. But in real life? It's messy. Complicated. Heavy. Sometimes the people who hurt you become so broken that revenge starts feeling redundant. Ava studied my face carefully. Then she said something that changed me forever. "You don't owe them forgiveness." I swallowed hard. "But you deserve peace." That word hit harder than revenge ever did. Peace. Not victory. Not punishment. Peace. 2 days later, I walked into St. Mary's Rehabilitation Center with my heart pounding so hard I thought I might faint. The receptionist directed me upstairs. Room 214. Every step felt unreal. I kept expecting to turn around, to run. But then I reached the door and saw her. My mother looked impossibly small in the hospital bed. Age had hollowed her face. The elegant woman who used to terrify dinner parties with one sharp glance now struggled to lift her own hand. When she saw me standing there, she started crying immediately. Not graceful tears. Not movie tears. Ugly, desperate sobbing. Bella. I hadn't heard her say my name in 2 decades. It shattered something inside me. I stood frozen near the doorway. She tried to sit up too quickly and winced. "Oh God," she whispered through tears. "You came." I didn't answer, because I didn't trust myself to speak. Her eyes searched my face hungrily, like she was trying to memorize me before I disappeared again. Then she whispered the words I waited 20 years to hear. I was a coward. Silence filled the room. "I should have chosen you." A tear slid down my cheek. Then another. "I wanted to," she cried. "I wanted to so many times." Anger surged through me suddenly. "So why didn't you?" My voice cracked loudly enough to make her flinch. "You let him throw me away." She sobbed harder. "I know. You watched me leave. I know. You never came for me." The room echoed with my pain. Years of it. Buried. Rotting. Alive. And my mother just cried helplessly because there was nothing she could say. No excuse big enough. No explanation good enough. Finally she whispered. I thought obedience was survival. I stared at her. And suddenly, I understood something terrifying. My mother had been abandoned long before I was. Not physically. Spiritually. She spent her entire life shrinking herself to survive my father. And eventually she became so small she couldn't even protect her own daughter. It didn't excuse her. But it explained her. And sometimes understanding is more painful than hatred. She looked at me with swollen eyes. Did she really become valedictorian? I blinked. Ava? My mother nodded weakly. A tiny smile trembled onto her lips. I always knew she would do something extraordinary. I nearly collapsed from the grief of that sentence. Because she had loved us. Quietly. Pathetically. Cowardly. But genuinely. And somehow that hurt worst of all. I sat beside her bed for 3 hours. We talked. Cried. Remembered. And when I finally stood to leave, she grabbed my wrist gently. I don't expect forgiveness. I looked at her frail hand holding mine. Then at the woman time had already begun punishing long before justice arrived. And softly, honestly, I said, I'm still trying to forgive myself for thinking I wasn't worth choosing. My mother broke down completely after that. But as I walked toward the door, something extraordinary happened. For the first time since I was 23 years old, I no longer felt abandoned. Because I finally understood the truth. They didn't reject me because I was hard to love. They rejected me because love required courage. And they didn't have any. But I did. I chose a little abandoned girl when nobody else would. And in the end, she grew up to save me too.